Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to NOCEL Limited Q2 and H1 FY22 earnings conference call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. S. R. Deo, Managing Director of NOCEL Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning and very warm welcome to everyone present on the call. Along with me, I have Mr. P. Srinivasan, our Chief Financial Officer, and SGA, our Investor Relation Advisors. Hope you all have received our investor presentation by now. For those who have not, you can view them on the stock exchanges and the company website. We trust and pray that you and your families are safe, healthy, and secure. Let me start with the business highlights for the period. We recorded all-time high revenue in Q2 FY22 of rupees 375 crores. However, the unprecedented increase in raw material, freight cost, and other input costs has impacted margins on a sequential basis. During the quarter, we have registered a revenue growth of 9%. As indicated during previous earning call, we were forced to consume high input legacy cost coupled with increase in utility cost, which impacted the operational performance. The global consumption of rubber data for both natural and synthetic rubber continues to show sign of upward trend. The rubber consumption on annualized basis based on Jan to 2021 period shows a growth of approximately 9% compared to full year calendar year 2020 as against a degrowth of 6% in calendar year 2020 as compared to calendar year 2019. Accordingly, we see that demand improved for tire industry on easing of localized lockdown by state government since May 21. The tire majors who had announced their capex have not made any major changes in their business plans, and they continue to see good demand visibility for their expanded capacities going forward. We continue to monitor the markets very closely, and we are ready with our capacities to fulfill the future growth. We are also strengthening our presence in the export market for our products and diversify our geographies. There is a lot of R&D and brand building that we are doing in export market. The recent disruptions in China due to power shortage along with higher ocean freight has impacted the global supply chain, leading to unprecedented rise in commodity prices. This is the brief from my side. Now I would like to hand over to Mr. P. Srinivasan to give you update on the financial performance.
Thank you, Mr. Dev, and good morning, everyone. Hope you all are safe and in good health. Let me take through the financials of the company for Q2 and H1 FY22. On the sales volume front, the volumes for Q2 FY22 grew by 35%, taking a base of Q1 FY20. That's an index level from 100 has gone to 135. Whereas on quarter-on-quarter sequence, the volume registered a growth of 5%. So 130 has become 135. Revenue, on the revenue parameters, the net revenue, as Mr. Dev highlighted, net revenue for operations for Q2 FY22 stood at 375 crores, a record high, as against 345 crores in Q1 FY22. A sequential growth of 9%, a combination of volume, price adjustments, and weighted average product mix. The sales growth, net revenue from operations for H1 FY22 stood at 720 crores from 328 crores as against H1 FY21, a growth of over 119%. On the operating EBITDA for Q2 FY22 stood at 49 crores as against 73 crores recorded in Q1 FY22, a degrowth of 24 crores. For H1 FY22, the operating EBITDA stood at 122 crores as against 39 crores for H1 FY21. We saw a big drop in EBITDA margin by more than 8% as compared to Q1 FY22. For H1 FY22, the EBITDA margin stood at 17% as against 12% H1 FY21. Mr. Dev explained the reasons for drop in EBITDA margin, but again it's primarily driven by increase in input costs, largely due to legacy input cost and some element of freight and utility costs. On the PBT parameters, the profit before tax parameters, the PBT for Q2 FY22 stood at 41 crores as compared to 63 crores in Q1 FY22. PBT for H1 FY22 stood at 104 crores as compared to 32 crores for H1 FY21. The PAT parameters, the profit after tax. The profit after tax for Q2 FY22 stood at 31 crores as compared to 47 crores for Q1 FY22. On the half-yearly performance, PAT for H1 FY22 stood at 78 crores as against 28 crores in H1 FY21. Based on the market conditions and H1 performance, we are still hopeful of achieving a volume growth of more than 10%. Obviously, we would strive for more, but it all depends on how the market unfolds because of the current uncertainties prevailing in the international market. And we expect the revenue growth of minimum 45% over FY21 to FY22. With this, we would like to open the floor for question answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Mr. Dhiman Shah from One Up Finance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Two quick questions. Number one, the fall in gross margins, how much of that would you attribute to only raw material and particularly raw material increase from China? And secondly, if there is any element of, us doing penetrative pricing in any of the export markets which you mentioned that, you would like to focus on. So that is question number one. And question number two, any fruition of plans on the capex side, given what you had mentioned during Q1 that you'd possibly freeze on plans for future capex and future growth. So if you can just answer these two, please.
Dhiman, I would like to clarify on the gross margin. I think we had given a hint in the Q1 call that in Q2 we will have a legacy cost. And Q1 had the original plan was a higher volume, but due to COVID second wave lockdown, we had booked some high cost inputs and that got spilled over to Q2. So if you really ask us very frankly, there is a shift of 10 crores here and there. What was 10 crores supposed to come in Q1 went to Q2, and that's the reason the profit of Q1 stood at 60 and Q2 stood at 40. Otherwise, it should have been 50-50. That was the point number one. Coming to the penetrative pricing on the export market, no, there is the prices of competitive pricing, and we are getting a reasonably good price. I don't see we need to undercut any pricing there.
No, meaning you had mentioned earlier that, if we open a new plant, I think the plant takes time for specific approval of that particular plant. And for that, they would, test the chemicals. for a time period of anywhere upwards of 6 months. So it was only alluding to that.
Yeah, that's on that front, we would like to clarify here is that there are some expanded products on which the capacities have been expanded. We are penetrated in the international market with a higher volume share in the international market, and of course not necessary to really undercut significantly. We were getting a more or less comparable pricing to the domestic market adjusted for duties. That's the second part. On the capex plan, I think I would like to leave it to Mr. Dev, our MD, to answer that.
Basically, as you are aware that NOCIL had already completed its capex plan of 450 crores, and as we have been briefing all of you in all the previous phone calls, that the first objective is to ensure that all these volumes which we have put in place, okay, we come to a stage that the capacities are covered in terms of our markets. As far as the future capex plans are concerned, of course, we continue to look at the future of the company, but right now it's not the time to share it with anybody. As and when we are ready for concrete capex plan, we will come back to you.
Great. And if I can just take half a minute on the previous question, any other raw material basket where you still see the pressure on, as far as impact on margins go?
See, as far as the raw materials and the energy costs are concerned, I think you should be aware that the situation is really unprecedented. And to talk about the margins, it's very difficult because there are all sorts of problems. You are aware that the energy costs have gone up. The freights have become extremely difficult. Okay. So even to look at the current quarter in terms of that and comment on that will be difficult. But as we said, our endeavor is always going to be to increase the volumes in the market and keep on increasing the top line.
Fair point. What I was trying to get is there any particular basket or particular set of raw material products which even moving forward can continue to impact our margins, or either in terms of sourcing, or either in terms of pricing, or either in terms of logistics, or whatever can impact, which you still see can have a spillover in Q3, Q4, just in case?
I think it's a very, very difficult question to answer looking at the current market situation. Okay. And I don't think that we can specifically talk about a specific raw material or a specific source, because overall the situation is constrained by all these factors: the availability, the pricing, the freight cost, and I don't think that we can say one raw material, but this is an overall situation in terms of supply chain.
Okay, just to rephrase that, sorry for this. The China, hello?
Haji.
Are we importing anything from China which can continue to impact us?
No, we have various sources in terms of our supply chain. We have source from China, we have source from Europe. So the impact of China would be little on our business.
Okay. I would like to clarify here. When China is not there in the active market space, then there is a supply chain constraint originating on the global space, and that's the reason the prices show an abnormally distorted price increases. So what we are not saying that we are saying China sourcing is not available, Chinese source is not available, hence price is going up. No, if China is reduced its production or there is a constraint originating out of China, all the global price of that particular product or sector gets impacted, and that's what we have seen across all sectors.
Fair point, sir. Thank you for answering all the questions. I'll come back and with you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shivan from GHP Securities. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Just one question. we've seen Indian manufacturers coming out, rolling out electric vehicles. Now we've read that electric vehicles are heavier than the normal IC engine vehicles. So when you speak to the tire companies, what are the effects of this on the tire and consequently its effects on the utilization of rubber chemicals? So the quantum of the rubber chemicals used and the type of rubber chemicals used, if you could give some broad idea on this.
Okay. Now, first and foremost thing, whether it is IC engine or whether it is EV, any type of vehicle, first thing, the vehicles will require tire. Okay.
Yes.
So as far as the tire business is concerned, tire business will continue to grow. Now, as far as the tires are going to use natural rubber and a synthetic rubber combination, they will require rubber chemicals to manufacture. In fact, as you are rightly saying that EV tires are likely to be heavier, so probably higher rubber and higher rubber chemicals can go over there. If you are looking and asking the question from the business threads in terms of change from IC engines to EV, we don't see any business threat in that.
Okay. And in terms of the types of rubber chemicals, are newer types of chemicals that are going to be introduced or are in the R&D pipeline for that particular segment?
As of now, no. As of now, whether again I will repeat the same thing. Whether it's IC engine or rubber chemicals, natural rubber and synthetic rubber combination would use the same rubber chemical, and there is no thought process in terms of changing the rubber chemicals.
Okay, sir, got your point. And sir, any changes in the supply side dynamics of the rubber chemical industry as in new capacities coming globally in Korea, China, elsewhere?
No, I think from last 18 months we have not heard of any additional capacity which is coming up. Okay.
We have seen in China Sunshine some announcements that is coming in insoluble sulfur, something in accelerator, something in antioxidants. Apart from that, we have not heard anyone. Domestic suppliers, we don't know what is their actual exact plan.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I'll get back.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and good to know that we've been able to increase the volumes on a QoQ basis. So the first question is in terms of the China disruptions that we have seen a month back because of the energy issues and all. So did it have any impact on the volumes going out of China, and the pricing environment has subsequently improved based on the volume availability? And as I understand that in the last 4 quarters, every single quarters, we have been taking the price hikes based on the renegotiation of incremental contracts. So the same has been taken during the Q3 quarter as well? Thank you.
China disruptions volumes, we have encountered some disruptions originating out of Chinese competition supply chain on rubber chemicals. We have seen that. The contracted prices which we have entered in for Q3 is we are normally concluding mid-September or end September. So what we are now seeing is some spot price corrections have started happening. So which we are for spot customers, we are adjusting the cost increases. For contract customers, we are working out some alternate arrangements.
All right, got it, sir. So on the second question on volume growth, so in our presentation, we have indicated that we expect volume growth of 10% in FY22. And given that FY20 to 21 we had 14% volume growth, does it not look a bit muted given that FY21 was also COVID affected first quarter? And our commentary also suggested that the exports market is also improving and we are penetrating more from market share perspective. So just wanted your thoughts on the same. Thank you.
These estimates are on a conservative basis. We would obviously strive for more, but we are also taking cognizance of the current situation which is happening in the marketplace, particularly the domestic tire industries and or domestic non-tire, where in view of the high price regime, some of the small scale manufacturers may review their production activities or production plan, and we will be in a better position to exactly give you those clarification at the end of the Q3 results.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So just one number. What was the exports number for first half? I think Q1 was about 135 crores.
I think 260 or 260 crores thereabout.
Okay. Thank you so much, and Diwali wishes to the entire team.
Yeah, thank you, and same to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aditya Khetan from Stewart and Mackertich. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, sir. So my first question is again on the gross margins front. Sir, as you said in your initial remarks, that gross margin decline is led by the high inventory cost. So the first thing I wanted to understand, sir, if you look at your major raw material, which is aniline and carbon disulfide, so if we take the price of aniline on quarter basis, the price increase is actually not that much. So I just wanted to understand that if the aniline prices has not shown that sort of an up move, what was the actual reason for your for the contraction in gross margins? So was it completely attributable to the higher inventory cost, or what was the reason for it?
I think we have given the explanation in the first question question raised by one of the participants. We said that we were aiming for a higher operating rates in Q1. Hence, we had booked a high cost inputs, not necessarily aniline. It includes several input parameters. And unfortunately, due to second COVID wave lockdown, our operating rates came down because of the customers' lockdown. Therefore, this high cost booked material had to be passed on in Q2, shifted to Q2, and that is what we had given enough clarifications in the Q1 call, and that's what we want to give. This is the real reasons for it.
Okay. So that completely, so the high cost, so legacy cost has been taken for this quarter, or there is still left to pass it on to Q3?
No, everything is consumed in Q2.
Okay. So definitely, so from Q3 now, now we are also witnessing.
Q3 will have the more of uncertainty period. I think Mr. Dev will clarify that.
I think since you are talking of aniline cost, and it looks that you are tracking the aniline cost, please track it for Q3, the October cost, and it will answer your question.
Okay. Sir, so now suppose, sir, if the aniline prices starts to rise, so are we also planning to take some further price hikes to pass it on, or this?
I think we answered in the earlier question where we said for spot customers we are going to take cognizance of that. For non-spot contracted customers, we are working out alternate arrangements.
Okay, sir, that's it from us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, just one on the cash flow. So, cash flow was impacted largely because of higher inventories. So, is it because of the value or in the volume terms also we are carrying higher inventories?
Gentlemen, in the past we have given a clarification for any level of activity increase in level of activity, at least 25% of the increased level of activity, incremental activity will be deployed in working capital. So if your turnover is going from 925 to 1400 crores thereabout, on 475, 25% is 125 crores, and that's what has happened.
Okay. And just one clarification on your earlier remark in terms of price hike taken on the spot contracts. So, what is the current mix of business of the spot and the contracted business?
Typically, spot is 40% and contract is 60%.
So on this contracted business, so we will be able to take a price hike in the next renewal, maybe by Q1?
We are not sure. I think we are given, if you recollect, if you refer to our investor guidance, the presentation, we have already said that there could be some time lag, that we have already given a clarification, number one. Number two, nonetheless, we are trying for an alternate arrangement, but we are, at this stage, we don't wish to disclose what is that alternate arrangement. And it is not appropriate.
Oh, okay. Thank you and happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you.
Happy Diwali to you.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Aksh Vora from Praj Financials. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, just wanted to know what's our current capacity and capacity utilization?
We have already announced it is 110,000 production capacity, and we are utilizing the region of 70%.
Okay. And sir, given that the legacy cost of input cost has been behind, and in recent past there has been ADD announced on key raw materials. So what would be the margin impact, and from when can we expect that margin of incremental margin of ADD?
Can you repeat the question? I lost you somewhere. I'm sorry for it.
Yeah. Given that the legacy cost of input cost is behind us, and even the margins would be normalizing in second half, and the ADD in recent past, ADD has been announcing key raw materials. So from when the incremental margin improvement in ADD related raw materials would kick in?
Gentlemen, I think we have to look at a stable market conditions, not a volatile market conditions. For any margin predictions or consistent, sustainable margin parameters, we should look at stable market conditions. What we are today encountering is a very unusually unprecedented volatile market where everything is gone through the sky, through the roof, and it's not good for the economy or consumers at large to trade in a high price regime. That's not advisable. So unless the market stabilizes, I don't see it is proper on our part to give any margin guidance at this stage. What we are more concerned about is absolute numbers. We are trying to protect the absolute numbers. That is what we are more concerned about, not the margin percentage.
Okay. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagaraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Dev sir, if you could just delve a little more about the exports market and what is our strategy there. And in Q2, did we face some pressure because of some of the contracts being CIF based, and where the utilities cost, the logistic cost has certainly impacted. And incrementally, we will be going with maybe not the CIF-based contract, but Ex Works. Any thoughts on the same, and generally how the exports market is shaping up? Thank you.
Exports market, I think the first clarification we would like to give here on the freight aspect. Yes, we have witnessed unprecedented freight increase in most of our cargoes. We have negotiated with the customers on FOB plus actual freight. So the revenue parameters factor the incremental freight cost which we are forced to incur. And that's one of the reasons why, if you see the revenue parameters in absolute terms, showing a 9% increase over sequential quarter as compared to 5% increase in volume. Some portion of the freight aspect is already built into that, along with the product mix. That's number one. Number two, export market is still growing. We had a setback in Q2 because of the Southeast Asian markets lockdown. Other than that, we don't find any challenge in export market. We are still, the contracts are entered based on the offers given by us and the customer's requirement, and we are meeting all those schedules.
Right. That's interesting. So the second clarification, just again from the China front, that given that there have been disruptions in China. So have we seen in the last 1 month price increases across our accelerators or antioxidants products?
I think we clarified that the spot prices have shown a corrections on that to commensurate with the cost increases.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much, sir, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and one to ask a question. Participants, you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Niranjan from Acuitas Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Niranjan, sorry to interrupt you. May I request you to speak through the handset, please?
Can you hear me now clearly?
Yeah. Much better. Thank you.
First, a couple of questions. The first one would be any update on the ADD for anti-dumping duty, and the second would be how is the US market shaping up in the export market?
The first question, if I'm not mistaken, it is ADD. I think on the anti-dumping duty on Pilflex 13, that has not been accepted by the central government. The recommendation by DGTR has not been accepted by the central government. So that's the state. On the other three cases, investigations are currently ongoing. So we are awaiting the final decision from DGTR. The second question I did not get. Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
How is the US market shaping up in the export market? United States market.
It's steady. I think if I look at an index of 100, we are at already 170. If I look at 2018-19, it was 100. Today, we are going at the rate of somewhere in the region of 200 or 190.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Double in 3 years' time.
Yeah, helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Sagar from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. Sir, how do you classify specialty chemicals segment and what products are these? My second question is from the 3 years point of view, can you explain or give some kind of guidance what should be the mix between specialty and the commodity products, and what is the margin profile between them would be helpful. Thank you.
Point number one, any application which is meant for specialized application, we categorize as specialty chemicals. Though rubber chemicals per se is a niche segment, but with China coming in a big way, it is getting into some sort of a commoditized market. So what we are trying to distinguish is a product in our portfolio, about 22, 23 products, almost 50% are meant for specialized applications. So that way we can say that. From an industry perspective, specialized segment on the total rubber chemical scenario is not more than 10%, whereas in NOSIL, the basket is more than 25%. That's the current state of it. As per the margin profile, in specialty, generally, the competition is being minimal. It is a cost-plus scenario.
Okay. So any ballpark margins, any difference would you like to share? Generally, historically.
I think that is not appropriate.
And sir, how do you classify the specialty, application of these products, like specialty chemicals products?
Application may be in any field. It's not done by all the customers. It's only done by select group of customers or select industry. So that's the reason we categorize as specialized applications.
Okay. And sir, one more question on domestic market share. Generally, it has been in a trend of 40-42%. So is there any scope of improving market share from next 3 to 5 years point of view?
Yeah. We have.
So maybe any steps if you can guide on that, sir?
Some of the capacity expansions are meant towards that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Kadam from Canara Robeco. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. So my question is, sir, so in that long-term contract, how the price negotiations or how the discussions are happening with your clients? Because as we understand that we always maintain that our particular product may not be a substantial part of their COGS or their raw material thing. So how the negotiation is happening? Whenever the contract comes for renewal, they are okay with the adjustment what we are trying to report as a price, or they are asking for some maybe some adjustment in their favor so that maybe just maybe a midway between the price that this is too high, make it little reasonable. How the price negotiation is happening every time long-term contracts or the contractual agreements are coming for the price renewal?
Very simple. Each contract is generally meant for a quarter or 3 months period. Since China is controlling 75% of the supply chain, obviously China will be the price dictator in these products. Therefore, it's a competitive bidding, and depending on the competitive, if you are in the competitive range, we will get that volume, whatever is being asked for. And in case we are not in the competitive range, we will be given an offer, or we will be given a chance to improve our offer in case we wish to. And at that point in time, we take a call whether it is worth pursuing for an additional volume or price drop or loss of margin. Those call the marketing function takes a conscious weighted average call in consultation with the management's objectives. And accordingly, it's on each customer, each product to product basis. There is no standard formula. Each customer is different, each product is different.
So basically, the spot market is immediately get adjusted. So what I can sense from your comment is that even the contractual the long-term contracts what we talk about, even though they come for a quarterly renewal, it is actually reflecting whatever the current price scenario is. Just that we have to compare it with the input parity or maybe the China prices, and that's how the things get settled. And if you are able to supply them at that competitive bid price, they are happy to buy from it. So it might be a matter of a time or a lag of a quarter or so, where that even those contracts get readjust to what the current price scenario is.
Yes, please. Because that is what we have seen in the last 1 year.
Okay. So it is our efficiency whether we can compete with China. Else, if yes, then there is no problem in getting the correct
availability. My dear friend, it's a product availability, and the availability is there. If the supply is there more than the demand, automatically the price pressure is there. If the supply is equal to demand, the price adjustment is there, commensurate with the cost increases. It's very simple economics, and that's what is playing here.
Okay, fair enough. I got my answer. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Nirav from Annual Research. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I have 2 questions. Sir, you mentioned in the earlier remarks that the endeavor is to protect the absolute or the per kg margin. If you can elaborate the same with respect to that, whether you are referring to with respect to the average of H1 in terms of the per kilo margins, or the Q2 margins what we have reported this quarter.
Nirav, we would like to ensure that we would like to aim for we are very greedy people. We would like to expect the moon. But in reality, we have to look at the competitive pricing, and we have to work towards in a competitive market scenario. And the challenges are there. What we are trying to say, we will try to maximize under the constraints, given the constraints under which we are operating. So we would like to improve the margin for sure, but we cannot be very specific. But yes, we would like to protect as far as possible wherever we can. But it all depends on how the market unfolds, how the customer reacts to those offers, and that's it's a puzzle which is regularly being solved every quarter. Some quarters we win, some quarters we lose. So that's part of life. But if we are able to adopt this approach consistently and it is paying dividends, I think we are on the right track. We can presume that.
Correct. Sir, and second question would be in terms of our, if you can give some sense in terms of our domestic market share, how it has been in last 6 months. So let's say at the start of FY22 and what has been the situation currently. So has it improved in last 6 months, our domestic market share? Thank you.
Of course, it has improved. It has improved. I don't have exact data of imports right now with me, but as and when we have, we will share it with SGA and then SGA will share it. But we believe we have improved because the requirements in Q2 was better than Q1. So therefore, and we were forced to supply that thing. So that's a very clear message that the supply from other sides were really restricted or probably.
Okay. Sir, if you can share FY21 numbers also, that would be helpful so that next time when you will share the data on probably H1 of FY22, we can correlate with it.
Sure.
So if you have some ready data.
I do not have the data right now with me. In the next presentation, we will include that.
Okay. So thanks a lot for answering the questions in detail and festival wishes to the entire team.
Thank you, and all the best to all of you, please.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Priyank Chheda from Standard Chartered Securities.
Yeah. Hi. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. Just wanted to clarify 2 points which I might have missed out while you spoke about. So the legacy cost in Q2 that we have booked was up to 10 crores, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And sir, if you can again clarify what was the capacity utilization in the current quarter?
70%.
70%. Okay. So just a thought process. So if you're guiding on the revenue growth of 45% for the full year of FY22, which ultimately means that in H2 we would be growing at roughly around 5%, which is a significant deceleration versus what we have been thinking about to ramp up the utilization. So any thoughts on that? Why such a conservative guidance on the revenue front?
I think we are at the start, I think it's a conservative guidance. But we will be more clear in the Q3 guidance. When the Q3 results, the parameter comes up, we will be in a better position to give it. We would strive for better than that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Aditya Khetan from Stewart & Mackertich. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the follow-up, sir. Sir, my question is, as I clearly remember, sir, last 2 quarters back in Q4 FY21, when we had asked you this question regarding the Acmechem and the Merchem merger, their plant was about to start in December 21 this year, that you had said 2 quarters back. So just wanted to take an update. What's an update on that plant, because they are the second largest player in the domestic market in rubber chemicals. So any update and how you see the competitive scenario change thereafter, like if that plant was about to start in the next month? Any idea?
They have started the plant in a limited scale. I don't think it's a big volume, but every manufacturer has plans, but how it unfolds, maybe time will tell us. But today, yes, they are in the business both on manufacturing from and also importing from China and selling in the market.
Okay.
Basically trading, largely trading, some element of manufacturing.
Okay. So, sir, how you see the competitive scenario then shaping up? So, are we facing some sort of pressure in the pricing from them also? What is the scenario in the competitive?
He is importing from China. Obviously, he has to build a margin for himself. No? We are concerned with the landed cost from China, and then we are pricing on that basis.
Okay.
And some intermediate he is importing from China and he's converting it. So that's his strategy. So far, it's not that significant from our perspective.
Okay, sir. Sir, if you can share the half-yearly volumes in the US market, sir, which we generally share it anyway.
I think we just answered. Now, in 3 years' time, from 1819 on index of 100, it has already gone to 200. 190 or 200. So what more do you want?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the follow-up. So just one thing on the capital WIP. So I could see about 20-23 crore kind of a number. So it is in regard to what capex?
Ongoing capex, which is yet to be commissioned. This is a routine capex. Yeah, it's about 20 odd crores is there. So large part of it is will be capitalized by the end of this year. I think at the beginning of the year we had 14 crores, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So that is some additional expenditure, and we expect to capitalize. This is our routine operational capex.
So any benefit on the backward integration or any debottlenecking kind of benefit from this?
It's not backward integration.
Okay.
I think these are the capexes which comes in many attempts in terms of some improvements, okay, or maybe better type of equipment, instrumentation, and upgradation of the plant. Okay, so these are normal capex.
Okay. And what will be the full year capex guidance for this year?
No, we don't have any other plan at this stage. As and when we have any significant capex expansion plans, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sagar from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Sir, just one question on the share pledge. I know it's not very big, so any guidance on that as well of invoking the share pledge?
We are not aware of that. I think at least we are not aware of it. It's a promoter's thing, and I don't think so it is appropriate on our part to comment on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Amit Kadam from Canara Robeco Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Sir, last time you had given a guidance of fully utilizing the entire capex or the capacity by September 2023. It is almost 2 years from now. That guidance stays with the current in the current scenario.
It stays.
Okay, and then the follow-up to that is, if that stays, it's 2 years from now. So, and the question on the capex or there will be future capex to maintain the growth momentum continuing for our company beyond 24, 25. So it's almost a 2 years time where the announcement has to be coming from the board, and then the engineering construction period. So do you think that we'll able to this 2 years is enough for that cycle to get complete and new capex or new plan something getting ready by September 23 so that our growth continues thereafter?
Yeah. We have plans. I think we have answered this question in the last quarter's transcript. Our MD has already given a clarification. Our request is please refer to those transcripts.
Okay. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Sir, I joined a bit late. Just one question. The gross margin reduction that we see QOQ is a function of RM aniline price rise, or it's a function of any realization cut which would have happened?
It's a basket of the entire inputs. Basically, we have clarified this in the earlier questions. What happened is during the Q1, we were expecting a higher volume offtake, and we had booked inputs for meeting the higher volume offtake. Unfortunately, due to the second COVID wave lockdown, the operating rates came down, and as a result, those high booked raw materials got spilled over to Q2, and that's the reason this got impacted. So it's about 10 crores there now. Shifting between Q1 and Q2. Otherwise, the profitability would have been 50-50 for both the quarters. Unfortunately, this 10 crores got spilled over to Q2. That's why it came to 60-40.
So basically, you consume a slightly higher priced inventory on raw material in quarter 2. Is that the assessment?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the reason we also mentioned in Q1 call that there will be Q2 will have the legacy input cost.
And incrementally, based on the finished good minus the RM spread, so realization minus the aniline cost, are you back to a more elevated gross margin numbers back again, which you saw in quarter 4 and quarter 1 of this year and quarter 4 of last year?
Gentlemen, in a high price regime, I think we should not be looking at gross margins as a percentage. We should be looking at what is an absolute number, and that's what we are keen.
That's why I asked you the spread, right? So I did mention the margin number. So on a spread basis, are you back or you are?
If you are adjusted Q1, Q2, the 10 crores adjustment, it will have been ideal.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, and wish you happy Diwali and happy New Year.
Happy Diwali to all of you and family there.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Niranjan from Equitas Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Sorry, I missed it. You said the utilization level was 70% in quarter. Is that correct?
Sir, I just missed you, please.
Sorry, you just mentioned, I missed that. You said the utilization levels in this quarter was 70%?
Yeah, Q2 was 70%.
But I think you said in Q1 also that it was about same range, 70% as well. So, how is the volume growth possible in 5%? Is there any different number?
You look at, gentlemen, you look at the stock change in the financials, no? That answers the query. We are talking about production operating rates.
Yeah, okay. Understand. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I will now hand the conference over to Mr. S. R. Deo for closing comments.
Thank you very much. To conclude, I would like to say that we believe the growth story continues to be very vibrant and very strong. We will continue to pursue top-line growth driven by volume as well as value in coming quarters. We expect to close the year with a volume growth of more than 10% and revenue growth of more than 45%. I take this opportunity to wish you a very, very happy Diwali and a happy New Year. I thank everyone for joining the call. I hope we have been able to address all your queries. For any further information, kindly get in touch with Mr. Srinivasan, our Strategic Growth Advisor, our Investor Relation Advisor. Stay safe. Thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. On behalf of NOCEL Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.